All right, Steve Austin here. Hey, man, thanks you guys for hitting the download button and lending an ear to today's show. Before we get rolling, though, let me tell you about one of the sponsors who makes this podcast possible, LegalZoom. It's the start of a brand new year, and that means everyone's talking about resolutions, and two of the most common you hear are get your life organized and start a business. Well, you can do both at LegalZoom.com. Getting your life organized starts with a last will and testament or living trust from LegalZoom.com. You can protect your assets, your family, and get yourself a little peace of mind in the process. And when it comes to starting a business, LegalZoom can save you lots of time and lots of money. LegalZoom has helped over 1 million businesses, and LegalZoom gets the job done right. Hey, 9 out of 10 customers recommend LegalZoom to their friends and family because they get personalized, very affordable protection. Well, maybe that's why LegalZoom earned an A+ by the Better Business Bureau. LegalZoom's step-by-step process was created by a team of experts in law and technology. LegalZoom is not a law firm but can connect you with a third-party attorney and provide you with self-help service. For special savings, enter Austin in the referral box at checkout. That's my name. Yeah, my last name, Austin. Don't let another day go by without protecting your family and your assets. From wills to trademark applications to powers of attorney, you can even get bankruptcy help. Go to LegalZoom.com. That's LegalZoom.com and enter Austin in the referral box at checkout.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're going to take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio. And he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is the Steve Austin Show. Unleashed.
All right, everybody, here I am coming to you from the studios here at 316 Gimmick Street in Los Angeles, California. That's right, I am broadcasting from my house today. Sitting in my office, my door's made from china closed, got my privacy going, I got a candle lit in here. I got 4, count them, 4 neon clocks going for a little bit of ambience and a little bit of atmosphere. I got it going on today, starting to get back in the groove, bringing you people cans of audio whoop-ass, not once a week, but twice a week. Still, lots of people sending in questions to SteveAustinShow.com. How come I'm only finding every other show? It's because the 2 shows that I do, Steve Austin Show on Tuesday, family friendly. Steve Austin Show Unleashed on Thursday are 2 separate feeds. You got to subscribe to them on 2 different gimmicks. So I'm trying to clear up that confusion so we can keep moving forward. And like I always say, man, I'm a big believer in grassroots support. So if you're digging this show, if it helps you out, get you on your way to work, on your way back home, help you pay them gimmicks they keep sending in the mail called bills, lightens your load off your mind, takes your mind off some bullshit that you're going through. Hey, if you want to help me out, tell 2 of your goddamn friends about the show and tell them to tell 2 of their friends and 2 friends from then on and then on and then on, and help keep spreading the word. I'm about to buy me a big-ass billboard out here in Los Angeles, California, and advertise a little bit. No, I ain't going to do that. Some it's cost too much. That's why I need you to go tell 2 people, and so forth and so on. Grass fire. Spreads like fire. Just start this motherfucker up with a little lighter and turn it into a bonfire. So, hey, help a brother out. If you like this motherfucker, tell us some bitch about it. I got Hershey over there scratching at my china door trying to get in here. Hell, I can't come over here, Hershey. I'm trying to lay down some audio whoop-ass for these folks sitting at their house or driving down their road to get their job done to pay their bills. Anyway, enough of that bullshit, man. I tell you what I got going on. I'm sitting on my ass. I'm ready to lay down a hell of an interview with a cat. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I ain't got nothing but a thing like a chicken wing on a shoestring, packing up my bags. I bought me 3 shirts, got me a pair of black jeans. I'm heading to Las Vegas tomorrow for the Consumer Electronics Show. Now, by the time you guys hear this, I will have already been there, and I'm back in Los Angeles, but that's what I got going on. And, I just got back to Los Angeles. I don't really care to go to Las Vegas right now, man. I'm trying to get my shit back together, trying to bring a little bit more research into the Steve Austin Show so I keep entertaining you motherfuckers. But nonetheless, duty calls. I've got to go down to Las Vegas and do my thing with the WWE. By the time this show drops, you will have heard the big announcement. I can't say what the big announcement is. We can't let that out of the bag right now as I'm talking to you. So it'll be interesting. I think you guys will dig what happens on Wednesday. And so anyway, I'm taking care of all my shit, fixing to take my sorry ass to the gym in my quest to get back in shape, getting in shape for the March filming of Steve Austin's Broken Skull Challenge for Country Music Television. It's going to be the most bust-ass competition show on television, and you get to sit in your living rooms and watch this son of a bitch every single week. It's going to be badass. I can guarantee you that. Anything else I got going on? I got an RV sitting out there in the driveway. I got to wash that thing down. I got to clean it all out. We got all of our stuff out of it. The refrigerator's empty. The freezer's empty. I got to wash this sumbitch up and take it down to the storage unit, get this sumbitch out of my goddamn driveway and go down and pick up my 1996 black Suburban. I had some work done on it while I was down there in Texas hunting. So I'm looking forward to getting back in my Black Beauty with the supercharged 350 and low-riding the streets of Los Angeles, California with Hershey the Wonder Dog, doing our nightly cruise, drinking Pellegrino sparkling water for the working man. Swig of beer, swig of coffee, swig of water, swig of whatever the fuck you want to drink for the working man. That's who I'm bringing this goddamn show for. You know what I'm saying? Did you hear me? Anyway, hey, man, I'm just fucking with you. I got a little deal here going on. I told you guys when we did that New Year's resolution thing, one of the biggest things we talked about was people wanting to drop some weight. And today's show, I'm going to talk to a cat named Stan Efferding, and we're going to talk about dropping some weight, getting into some sustainable habits. And, when I go on a weight loss program, I like to measure and weigh everything that I eat so I can be held accountable and so I can make calculations and changes. Stan's going to break it down a little bit more simple than that and just kind of do it for the working man because, when I'm not working, I've got the ability and the leisure to cook and weigh all my shit that I eat. So Stan's going to bring a common sense approach to more of a lifestyle type orientation, more so than just a hard, fast diet. And Stan Efferding is one of the strongest bodybuilders in the world. Well, as a matter of fact, Stan Efferding is the strongest bodybuilder in the world. He's also one of the strongest powerlifters in the world. But we're not going to talk about all that. We're just going to glaze across a little bit of that. But his knowledge is profound, and he sees things with such clarity, and he speaks with authority on the things that he talks about. And I'm looking forward to talking to this guy, picking his brain and asking some questions. And when it all boils down to it, I think you'll see it's just common sense. So anyway, Stan Efferding is my guest today. He's one of the strongest cats to ever walk the face of the earth. And for you guys that are gym rats, back in 2013, he totaled 2,303 pounds at 275 to break the great John Cole's total record that he set in 1972. So this is a 42-year-old record that Stan Efferding broke, the White Rhino. So, Cole was a guy who was obviously ahead of his time, and I think it speaks volumes to how strong Stan Efferding is to be the guy that broke that record raw, wearing, no equipment. I think he had some knee wraps on, but basically it was a raw lift. He didn't have a bunch of gear on. So strong guy, smart guy. He's my guest today. And before we get to him, we're going to take care of a little bit of business. And so we got to talk about something that can really help you out this tax season, and that is TaxAct.com. Hey, filing your federal taxes with TaxAct.com is easy, fast, and free. TaxAct.com. You got this. You can start anywhere and finish anytime on your computer, tablet, or phone. And TaxAct.com will guide you every single step of the way. TaxAct.com has been helping people file taxes for over 10 years. And at TaxAct.com, federal returns are free to prepare, free to print, and free to e-file. So save money and get your maximum refund guaranteed with TaxAct.com. Ain't no restrictions. Go online to TaxAct.com/Steve today. That's TaxAct.com/Steve. All right, let's get into it with my main man, Stam Everding, as he comes by the crib here at the studios at 316 Gimmick Street, a.k.a. my house. Coming right back. Have you ordered your Steve Austin Audio Whoop-Ass T-shirts yet? They're available right now at podcast1.com. Just click on the store link. It's a perfect way to ring in a new year. And check this out. It's a black T-shirt, so it's a good color for everyone. And if you spill food on it, no one can see it. So get your shirt right now at podcast1.com. Just click on the store link.
Steve Austin, Unleashed.
All right, I'm sitting here talking to Stan Everding. Stan drove down. No, you flew down from Las Vegas.
Yes, sir.
You got your rent-a-car. You're here in Los Angeles, California. How long are you down in town for?
I think just for the day. We'll probably drive back tonight.
I'm going to be in Las Vegas tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be in Las Vegas in 1 week for the SHOT Show. So I might see if I can get out there and get a training session in with you. Maybe I'll go a day early. But, Stan, I do this show for the working man. And a couple of shows ago, I had a show and we started talking about New Year's resolutions. And it was the overwhelming resolution that most people had was getting their ass back in shape. And you, as you write for Muscle and Fitness, you write also for...
I used to write for Flex. NPC News calls on me every now and then. Just depends on who needs what article at the time.
So you know what the heck you're doing, and you can help get the working man back on track. But let's talk about you for a little bit. One of the strongest guys walking the face of the earth, also a highly successful bodybuilder. Now, and going back, you're from Oregon. You graduated from University of Oregon with a degree in psychology.
Yeah.
But you segued right into bodybuilding, started winning contests, and then got into powerlifting. What was the game plan with the psychology degree?
Well, I think that I've always had a competitive desire, but you don't make a lot of money in sports like bodybuilding and powerlifting, and you recognize that right away. And so you got to keep your day job, you got to maintain your education. So I used it as a stepping stone for future opportunities. Really, at the time, not knowing what the future would behold.
You're a smart cat. What kind of a student were you? I mean, were you a 3.0, 4.0 student?
I struggled in psychology, to be honest with you. I was always great in math. My pops is an electrical engineer. And so, I had a big advantage in terms of numbers. I was always good at numbers, which helped me in business later in life. But I struggled because I wasn't interested in it. And so about midway through, I started getting more and more interested in the science behind training. And I was working out in college, and I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to compete. And so I started studying more and more of the exercise science. And that's when I started excelling in chemistry and biology and physics and kinesiology and anatomy. Those are the courses that interested me. And once I was engaged, of course, I started doing really well in those courses.
Now, coming into high school, other than your weightlifting routine, I mean, were you playing in the high school sports? I mean, football, baseball, anything like that?
Yeah, and most people are surprised to hear that I wrestled and played soccer. And I was quite tiny. I wrestled 98 pounds as a freshman and sophomore. I didn't have to diet. I was 106 as a junior, 115 as a senior, and not dieting. And by the time I got to college at 18 years old, I was only 140 pounds.
Really?
And all that dieting and all that running and all that missing meals and eating nachos at 7-Eleven, I missed some growth opportunity there. And so I kind of started from behind when I got to college.
What was it about bodybuilding that attracted you to the sport and just got you so interested in immersing yourself as far as you did into it and, creating the physique and also on the powerlifting side, the strength that you possess?
I mean, it's as simple as seeing, the athletes, whether it be at the time, everybody was really, really following pro wrestling, bodybuilding, and you'd start to see those athletes, just the size, the strength, and that, to me, was very desirable. That's something that I wanted to achieve, particularly being 140 pounds. You walk around the skinniest guy in the room, you want to do something about that.
Now, how'd your body respond? I mean, were you one of those guys that was just natural and things started happening as soon as you got in the gym?
Terribly. Didn't respond at all. I had the idea that I've always been one to think that if I want to achieve something, I got to work hard at it. And so I went in and I was 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was doing every exercise in Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, like most people do. And I thought you grew in the gym. I thought the more time I put in here, the more sets I did, the more reps I did, the more weight I lifted, I was going to get huge. And then you try and figure out, well, what to eat. You got some guy behind the counter that's getting ready for a bodybuilding show, and he's eating tuna fish and rice cakes.
Right.
So you start eating tuna fish and rice cakes. So you're training in the gym 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to eat tuna fish and rice cakes. No results. To go figure. I didn't have internet back then, so I had no idea. All I could rely on was the resources that I had, the bad information that still circulates today around the gyms, the personal trainers, and I was at the bottom end of all the bad information. So the first 2 years of training, I only got up to 160. 2 years of training. My joints hurt. I was tired all the time.
Now, what was your set and rep scheme at this time?
At the time, I was probably, you try and max out on bench every week.
Right.
You do some build-up sets where you might do some 8s or something, but every week was a max day on bench, and you'd always try and work up to too heavy of a squat with shitty form and partial range of motion. I was that guy, that everybody on Facebook makes fun of today. Although I was in there busting my ass, I was trying, but it wasn't anything that would yield results. And particularly the biggest problem was I was overtraining and undereating.
So how long did it take you to put 2 and 2 together, and that equals 4, and start making the progress that you wanted to make?
After a few years, I met a gym owner up there, Mark Delpo, Delps Fitness, and he had a better idea of what it took. And he told me, he says, you need to cut back on your training, you need to increase your food. And then I started diving into all of the science. But I started getting into nutrition courses, and that. But
when someone tells you to dial back the training, that's kind of a head.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive.
Yeah,
absolutely. All those conventional. You thought, I'm going to work harder than the next guy.
Yeah, more is better.
More is better. That was my theory, and it was my theory for years. I always thought that was the way to go.
So then the light bulb goes off, and things start happening better.
Things started happening great once I started drastically increasing my calories and started reducing my training and. Training a little bit smarter in terms of the exercises I did, what generated strength and what generated size. There's a slight variance between the two. And so I made some adjustments, and I started getting much better results. Before long, I worked my way up to 200 pounds. I thought that was huge.
Yeah.
When I hit 200, I can still remember.
And I'm sitting across from you right now, and you just walked in my house, and you're weighing 255.
Yeah.
And you look awesome, and you've been as heavy as...
Almost 300.
Yeah.
I was probably 290 at that meet in March last year when I dieted down to 275 to compete. But I like being a little leaner, a little lighter on my feet, a little better energy levels.
Right.
So I can't eat as much and still feel healthy and it just I can't sustain that kind of weight anymore. I'm 46 now. It's a different mindset.
And you're 46, and when did you start with your training program?
I started when I was 18 in college.
Okay, so that's the question that I'm getting to, because 17. I got so many questions come in. Steve, how do you stay motivated? And man, just like we were talking before I hit the record button, I kind of have two lifestyles. I have that hardcore weightlifting mentality. I grew up as a fan of both bodybuilding and powerlifting. Really kind of just rode in between both of them. Trained for athletics and football and just tried to maintain an athletic presence. And then also there's that side of me that loves my beer, my fried food, and stuff like that. So as long as I'm maintaining my course, I'm pretty good. Sometimes I'll go off the rails, just like I did this deer season, and put on some weight, which we're going to talk about, getting the working man back in shape. That's why you're here. But your motivation from when you were 18 years old is 46, and this has been your entire life, along with your business ventures, highly successful in your business life. But what has been your motivational factor to just keep you proceeding at the level that you have and to always continue making gains and progress?
The motivations always change every step of the way. It's the next competition. It's the next bodybuilding show, you want to place better. The next powerlifting meet, you want to lift a little more weight. And you see that goal, and it's on the horizon. It's within reach. It might be 3 months. It might be 6 months. I didn't have a 10-year goal, and so I just kept chasing these. Every time I'd compete, wherever I placed, my fire would kindle to come back and do better next year.
Right.
And then I'd start powerlifting, and however much I lifted, the fire would kindle to compete and come back and do better next time. So I'm a big fan of setting those kinds of short-term obligations for yourself, because it forces you to put a finish line on your work investment, so you're not, kind of just wasting time or not doing all the things you're supposed to be doing because there's no obligation.
But you're a unique case because you chose, after getting your degree in psychology from Oregon, you chose to go into bodybuilding and then powerlifting, and then you took 10 years off of that to get your business where it needed to be, so you could go back into the sports and pursue them with the amount of intensity that you did. But to the average everyday guy out there who's driving a truck, who's cutting down a tree with a chainsaw, that guy who's got to get his ass in the gym on at least, in my mind, at least 4 days a week, what do you say to that guy who, has so much going against him, has, who's living paycheck to paycheck, to get his ass into the gym and to get his ass back into shape?
Aside from the incentives that I created for myself, I was that guy.
Right.
I was the blue-collar guy. I always put a lot of time and energy into my training, but I always had to maintain a day job. I had to pay my own bills. I got 2 college degrees, and I worked as a maintenance man, plunging toilets when I got out of college,
right.
For minimum wage. And then, I always tried to create, and we talked about this earlier, a lifestyle that allowed me to do the things that I needed to do,
right,
but afforded me the opportunity to do the things I wanted to do. And that was just kind of a matter of discipline, really.
Discipline.
It started in college, was when I had to go to classes, I could look at my watch. I'm not going to be back for 6 hours. I got to get 2 meals in. So I'm packing those meals to put in my backpack. You're sitting in a 300-room auditorium with a professor up front, and you crack open a Tupperware full of hard-boiled eggs and chicken. Imagine the kind of looks you get.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't matter to me. I had a job to do.
Right.
You got to eat anyhow. I just made sure that I had the food available. It was the right foods, and then I just committed to train as often and as hard as I needed to train. It wasn't a huge distraction. I was able to maintain a pretty aggressive work schedule. I was always working 50, 60 hours a week, and working my way up. Promotions. Eventually, I was running those communities. To me, it was a matter of just deciding I was going to do these things well. I was going to do work well, and I was going to do my training well. And I tried not to get distracted with a whole lot of everything else and maintain the discipline on those 2 things. One
thing that we're going to get into as we start talking about some of the diets that people always want to talk about or go to, some of the go-to things and the cleanses and the foods to stay away from. One of the things also key to getting oneself back in shape is consistency.
Yeah.
Hit or miss does not get you closer to the goal you're trying to achieve. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. And, like I said, I was the guy that started way behind the starting line. I was the 140-pound guy. And so, I wasn't setting goals like being 250. I was setting goals like being 175 and hopefully someday 200.
Right.
And the only way to get there was consistency. There's no best workout program. There's no best diet. Everybody's different. Everybody's an individual. But there's one thing that always works, and that's consistency. If you consistently try and eat better, if you consistently try and make every workout and train a little harder, then all your results will come from that. There's no better training. And I've worked with some of the best guys in the world.
Right.
And there's no best workout program. And I've worked with some of the greatest nutritionists that I in the industry. And there's no best diet. They're all individualized. They all change over time. They're all specific to your needs. But the one thing that's universal is consistency. I say frequency and intensity is the 2 I say.
Right.
You got to get in there on your 3 to 4 days a week. You got to get your 5 meals a day in. And then you have to, with your intensity, is how hard are you willing to push yourself? Intensity can fluctuate, and you can still get results. Consistency can't.
Right.
I heard over and over and over again, guys come in the gym and say, I just took a little time off. Or I looked at summertime. It was so hot, it's hard to gain weight. It's hard to get in the gym as often. At the summertime, at the beginning of the summer, I said 4 months from now, if I'm exactly where I am now, I'm going to be way ahead of everybody else.
Right.
And that's all I shot for.
Yeah.
Because I knew all my competition was going to be dicking around
all
summer long, missing meals, too hot to do this, missing training sessions. at the end of the summer, because winter was always a great time to gain weight and strength. You could eat more, you could train more. Whatever.
You could have more clothes on. You don't need to look good. You don't need a six-pack.
So I didn't really have to gain a pound all summer long, and I was 10 pounds ahead of my competition because they lost.
So now, taking that exact thought, consistency, or as you put it, frequency and intensity, but always maintaining the consistency, you had the desire to go from 160 to 175 to 200, on and on and on. Well, my listeners of the Steve Austin Show, we're talking about starting at maybe 270 or 300, getting down to 250, 240, 230. It's the exact same thing. It's just a reverse process.
Yep.
And we're gonna start it off by calling it a diet. And you like to refer to it as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And because that's what it needs to become to maintain a consistency. But to lose weight, you must be at a caloric deficit, correct?
Or your workload must exceed your intake.
But bottom line, caloric deficit.
Ultimately, you created a deficit.
Yeah, you have to create that deficit for your body to drop weight. So with that being said, there's so many diets out there these days, and some of the top 5 that you always hear about is the Atkins diet, which is low carb and kind of goes into some ketosis where your body relies on burning fat as its main fuel source. You got the Zone diet, which is a 40% carb, 30% fat, 30% protein. That sounds like a pretty easy deal to me. South Beach Paleo Mediterranean. Okay, Stan, I just threw 5 diets out there. Where are you, when I say these 5 diets, to these you say what?
Well, I say first of all, you're setting yourself up for failure by calling it a diet to begin with.
Okay.
Anytime I set up a program for somebody, I try and find out, what do you normally eat? What do you enjoy to eat? When do you normally eat? What foods feel good on you? What foods don't feel good on you? And then, I throw kind of an umbrella out there. I give them a wide range of options. I tell them some philosophies, some theories, some things to shoot for. And then we try and wedge that into, kind of a regular program. But it's a lifestyle for me. It's choices that I make that I enjoy making because they give me the results that I want. They feel good. The food feels good on my stomach, and the results, come. And so I try and live in the absence of a diet. Right. I don't measure my food. When I'm getting ready for a competitive bodybuilding show, I may be a little more strict in portion control. But generally speaking, just by utilizing the concepts that I introduce, I think people can get the results. And all those programs, the problem is with any program, you adapt. And every person is an individual. And what might work for you starting out might not work for you in 3 months or 6 months.
Right.
And so there always has to be some sort of check-in, some way to make adjustments so that you continue to get results. And that happens both with your weight training or your athletics or your diet. You constantly have to stay ahead of yourself. And
that's with someone who's dedicated his life to being in shape such as you have, that's a little bit easier for you to do. Mm-hmm. The discipline, the portion control. So to the regular everyday guy out there or a woman out there, so when we start talking about dialing in, finding these foods that we got to say, you're a sensitive guy because if you go to a fast food chain and you roll in there and get you a double cheeseburger, you're going to feel like crap probably because you eat so clean.
Yeah.
But to the person that's eating that every single day, that feels good on them.
That's normal.
But that can't be a part of the lifestyle going forward. So how do you start going about trimming out this, that, or whatever? I mean, like foods to stay away from, just Heisman stiff arm that you must not, you should not on a regular basis partake in.
Well, I think more and more people are starting to see, and more trainers are starting to agree, and more science is starting to support the fact that we've kind of been led down the wrong road in terms of these low-fat, high-carb diets or a lot of these processed carbs. Just about anything you do initially will yield results, whether it be in your weight training program or your diet. And so I say get a start doing things that don't cause such an extreme change that you quit.
Right.
If you sit down tomorrow and try and go on a very strict diet like the ones that you and I have been on over the years, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
If you go in tomorrow and load 500 on the bar and ask for a liftoff, you're in for a surprise. Yeah. So it's all a matter of gradually making these tiny steps. just about anything you do initially is going to give you progress. So if you can't train 4 days a week, train 3. If you can't train 3 days a week, train 2 and throw in a cardio session or something. Anything you can do consistently.
Right.
And with respect to training, anything you enjoy doing, you'll do more consistently. People always ask me, what's the best exercise? And I'm like, the one you'll do is the answer. It doesn't matter, any exercise, as long as you enjoy it. Let's start there. Now, can you optimize that over time? Sure. Do I make very specific recommendations for athletes that are at an elite level? Yeah. But starting out, let's get some results.
Right.
Same thing's true with diet. Starting out, let's take out the bad stuff.
Okay.
Let's take out the really fatty fats. Let's take out the cheeses and the bacons and the hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
We got to get rid of those. They're
Right.
just too dense and fat. And you can start switching to even a lean steak, some eggs, chicken.
Now, we're not talking fried chicken, right?
Not talking fried chicken.
Right.
That, of course, would be in the fatty fat. So that's 100% fat.
Right.
Those are some of the really bad ones. Obviously, without getting too specific or scientific with respect to saturated and polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, just try and reduce the really bad fats, the ones that are. And I'm not saying that any animal fats are bad per se in terms of health. I'm saying that fat, particularly a significant accumulation of body fat and belly fat is bad. And how do we reduce that? I'm still suggesting eggs, which is a cholesterol-based animal protein. I'm still suggesting lean steak because cholesterol is so important for so many things in your body, including manufacturing hormones. And so I'm not a big fan of the vegan push, but I'm saying stay away from the bad.
The obvious bad
the
stuff.
obvious stuff. Cheese is really high in fat as a percentage of what you're taking in. Hot dogs, obviously. Even fast food. The hamburger meat in fast food is, they say, 80% lean. Right? When you go to the store and look at it. Well, as a percentage of total calories, milk, 2% milk is 37% fat.
Right.
So a 20% fat burger, you're going to be up in the high 80s.
Right.
Add to that some cheese and bacon and whatever else. And plus, the burger in most fast food places isn't the highest quality. You're getting some ground up bone and tendon in there. Your body's not even going to utilize that, but they count it as protein.
Right.
They don't count it as fat.
Right.
So, and then the killer. I started with getting rid of bad fats, but I think the biggest, the number one, is those carbs, particularly the simple carbs, particularly the white breads and the white flour products, which can even take you into pastas. I'm not opposed to you need some carbs.
Right.
Carbs can prevent muscle tissue breakdown. Carbs can stem cortisol release. Carbs can fuel workouts. Carbs can protect you from losing muscle during training or subsequent to that. But you got to not take in too much, and you got to take in the right kind. And more white flours, even whole wheat breads can just be too much sugar for most people.
You see, let me cut you off real quick. You always see these commercials about the Subway commercials. I'm not running down Subway. I'm sure it's a fine franchise with great sandwiches. But they got the cat Jared, who lost all his weight by eating Subway sandwiches. I think not. The $5 footlong. That's a hell of a lot of damn bread.
It is.
A cat trying to lose weight ain't going to lose weight eating that much bread.
Well, you and I talked about the fact that you have to be in a calorie deficit.
Yes.
And as a beginner, someone like Jared, when he first started out, he went into a calorie deficit, probably the first time in many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And he got significant results. And you can get results for an extended period of time just by eating less food than you're burning. And he probably implemented an exercise program. There was a school teacher recently, an article, who went to McDonald's and ate every single day at McDonald's for months. Did you read that article?
Yeah.
1,800 calories a day. He pushed back, as opposed to the Super Size Me guy who ate 5,000 calories a day.
Right.
So, and he ate Sundays, he ate Big Macs, he ate French fries, but he ate only enough such that his total daily intake was 1,800 calories, and he walked 40 minutes a day.
Right.
So
he was eating less than he was expending.
Yeah. So before I completely demonize these foods as being the source of the problem, it's the calories. If you can push back, I tend to be more specific about what you can and can't eat because I tend to deal with high-level athletes. But
Right.
as a beginner, you can get results, but you will have to push back from something.
Right.
Total calories, the easy things to push back from are those bad fats we talked about, the high fats. And the easy things to push back from, or should be easy to push back from, are the simple sugars.
Now, when you say simple sugars, now what about the fruits? I'm not a big fruit guy, When I think of simple sugars, I immediately think fruits. I know they're a big part of a lot of people's diets that are into the health thing.
Different fruits, they respond differently. Some fruits are associated with cellulose fiber, such as an apple, or have some fibrous content in the fruit itself, like with a grapefruit or an orange. Even like a carrot can spike your insulin levels. Really ripe bananas, very yellow or almost browning bananas, are digested differently than greener bananas in terms of fiber content. But there are some diets that like to get into measuring, using the glycemic index to measure every single carb and label it bad or good. The problem is those indexes are created in the absence of the consumption of fats and proteins. They're created from just consuming that carbohydrate.
Right.
Everything changes once you consume it with proteins or fats because the digestion rate drastically reduces.
Right.
So those aren't in and of themselves bad, and fruits have a lot of benefit in terms of the vitamins and the extra fiber that you can get from them. So I think, again, if you had to make a choice between a fruit and a bun,
Well, yeah.
If you had to make a choice between a fruit and just about anything in the bakery section at Costco,
The fruit's going to win.
The fruit's going to win.
Right.
Yeah. But tons and tons of fruits, in the absence of some sort of protein or fat, can spike your insulin levels and potentially, lead to fat accumulation depending on how many calories you've had.
What about the artificial sweeteners? I'm a big Splenda guy, and I was adding them up before you came over because I need to ask you this question. I probably, with all the coffee that I drink, I might be going through 15 to 20 Splenda packets a day. Is that close enough to sugar, to mimic sugar, to elicit an insulin response from my body? Am I screwing myself there?
It's not, and I forget the name, but a doctor who recently wrote a book about all of those, I recently watched an interview with him, and he would prefer, in some cases, that you just use a small amount of sugar instead of introducing a lot of those chemicals.
Right.
He's also said that, I believe it's stevia, it's the plant.
Yeah.
Out of South America is a great alternative to those. It's very low in chemicals. Now, some derivatives of stevia, some processed derivatives, are just as bad because there are a lot of chemicals in them. But he did suggest that stevia was one of the better of the zero-calorie sweeteners. But he also said that you're probably better off putting a tiny bit of sugar in before consuming a lot of those chemicals.
Now, what about talking about, so many people these days, they'll roll into a 7-Eleven and grab a big gulp full of Coke. And whether it's Coke or Diet Coke, help me out there. I mean, that's got to be one of the biggest no-nos that there is.
Okay, we're talking to the normal guy. He's 270, he's driving a truck.
Right.
So let's eliminate the regular Coke.
Okay.
Let's make those kinds of changes. Let's eliminate.
That's an easy change to make one that he can live
cheeseburger.
with. Got you.
Yep, let's do that. And that gets us started down the road.
Okay.
And let's consistently eliminate those. And let's consistently try and do some sort of exercise 3-4 days a week. I think that gets us the first 20 pounds, within just a short period of time, 60 days. I think that we can really hit that goal just by making those small adjustments.
And going back to the flour and the pasta type stuff, we're obviously going to eliminate pizza. When there's a lot of cats get down the road and it's easy to get a pizza delivered to a hotel room. I've been there, done that. Now, if we're trying to drop some weight and we're consistently eating pizza, that's not going to help us get there. We kind of need to toss that one out the window, too, with that food group.
Yeah, pizza's a double whammy. You got the cheese loaded on there, the pepperoni, like 90% fat, sausage, whatever that is, the ham, and then that crust. It's just straight up white flour and loaded with butter. It's boy, I tell you, and I hate having to say it because it's one of my favorite go-to foods.
Right.
I can't do fast food anymore, but I can do a pizza.
Yeah, I can too.
And I enjoy
a bunch of it.
Yeah. So that's one that I have to pull out that I miss.
Now, before we, you're kind of getting me lined up on a program, getting me back on the track of the lifestyle, and like with my dual lifestyle, the health conscious guy and that beer drinker guy. But in the email you sent me, you said, hey, you need to be cool with your salad dressings because salad dressings can get you in trouble because all of a sudden you can get a loaded up salad, whether it's the contents of the salad or what you're putting on top of that salad, and all of a sudden you can be riding a pretty good a path to dropping some weight, but you can really screw it up by using a bunch of damn salad dressing.
Absolutely. And, you know, the big thing is, and we've seen it before, that you can put together a salad that exceeds a Big Mac in terms of saturated fats and calories.
And you think, oh, man, this is good, it's healthy, it's a bunch of lettuce. No, bullshit. There's a lot of other stuff in there.
Yeah. Well, if you're headed down the row there, you're